Hey, Bookish friends. I'm finally getting around to filming my April wrap up. I have my cheat sheet because I read 4 books on my Kindle this month. And actually, the first book I finished was Night Falls on Predicament Avenue by Jamie Jo Wright. I checked this out through my library on my Kindle. We have 2 timelines. One of them, I can't remember when it was set, but we have this abandoned house on Predicament Avenue, and transients tend to go there. The owners of the house don't care. They don't want to sell it, but they don't want anyone else to have it either. And 2 women end up going there almost as a dare, and one of them witnesses a crime, and she was sick, and she ends up just almost comatose from shock and trauma. And then the current timeline, that house has been turned into a B&B, and the woman running it had inherited it from an aunt, and her sister had died. And there's a podcaster wanting to look into the older timeline crime. It was pretty good. I really liked this one, and it's been a while. It's been more than a month since I finished it, so I'm trying to remember. It's a little hazy. I do remember I had enjoyed it more than some of her more recent ones that I've read. It was on my 2016 and 2026 list to motivate me to read her books again because I have fallen behind. The next one I finished is Ariadne and the Legend of the Fire Rose. I could have read this for the Read Your Bookshelf Challenge because it does have the conjunction "and" in the title, but I also just wanted to read it because I've seen other people on YouTube read it and rave about it, and I wanted to know what was up. We have Ari. Her parents go missing while trying to get her to this school. It's an all-girls school. They train in the normal ladies things, but they also learn about weapons and plants, and it's a good time. It's the first book in, I think, a series, but none of the other books have come out yet. It doesn't end on too much of a cliffhanger. A lot of the loose ends are tied up. I will say, for a young adult fantasy book, there was a reasonable amount of angst, and most of it wasn't about a boy, which I found refreshing. It was clean, it didn't have swearing, and I will hopefully pick up the next book whenever it comes out. The book I actually did read for the Read Your Bookshelf Challenge is A Hobbit Wardrobe and a Great War. This is about how World War I influenced the writing of Lewis and Tolkien. I had also drew this for Set in a Place I Want to Visit because it's set in England and France. And I thought this was very fascinating. I kept wanting to read it to learn more. It gave background for the culture at the time, and then how different aspects of the war and thoughts around that time trickled into the writing. And I am really glad I read it. I've actually loaned this out to a few people as well. And let's see. Oh, speaking of books I've loaned out to other people, The Other Bennett Sister. I actually read this right after I got it. I had seen the trailer and clips on YouTube, and I got very intrigued. And my friend Shatona had recommended this, and it wasn't that expensive on Amazon, so I bought it and I read it and I loaned it out to a friend, and I just happened to read it at the same time as another friend, so we still need to have like a more in-depth, spoily conversation now that we've all read it. And this is the story of Mary Bennet. There's a little bit of overlap with Pride and Prejudice, but it's only about 75 out of the 460-ish pages of the book. There's also a little bit of setup from childhood as to how Mary Bennet came to be with the personality she did in a family of women who are beautiful and charming or witty or such things. And I got a little bit annoyed toward the end with some of the things. I think part of it could have been cut out and it still would have been a good book. I did really like the actual ending. One of my friends did point out that there is a little bit of feminism and throwing off society's expectations in here that actually probably wouldn't have been accurate to the times, and I have to agree. But I think overall, for a book that takes someone else's characters and makes them their own, it was really good. And my boys and I mostly listened to My Side of the Mountain and then our audiobook expired, so then we all finished reading it. This is a story about a boy who just runs off to live in the woods where his old family has an old homestead, but it's just him, and he leaves with just very few items, and they loved it. And my friend really, each week that they met to talk about it in our co-op, she had a different food for them to try from the book, and it was fun. They tried mussels and frog legs and caramel corn, and it was just a neat story. I think the next one I finished, was another ebook. I read The Enchanted April because it was April and I didn't get to it last year, so I wanted to read it this year. I went into it with somewhat low expectations just because of the synopsis that I read phrased things a little strangely at the end, so I didn't know what I was getting into. And we have 4 women who 2 of them see an advertisement for it's like a manor or a castle or something in Italy to let for the month of April, and they decide that they're going to escape the drudgery that is England in April and all its rain and muck, and then they decide to split it with 2 other women just to make it more affordable. And they get there and it sort of transforms them a little bit, has them come out of their shells, take on better parts of their personality and make those the dominant parts of their personality. And there is restoration in relationships, and I thought it was quite lovely. And actually right after that I read another ebook. I read Rogue Secreto by Victoria McCombs. Chantel at Chantel Reads All Day has raved about her books, and I finally got around to reading one because I needed one for Mistaken Identity for the Jurassic reading challenge. And this one we have, I guess maybe it's not Mistaken Identity, it's more Secret Identity. I mean, everyone else mistakes her for someone else. We have an emperor's daughter who has magic. She can tell what people's secrets are by looking at them, and no one in her family knows that she has this power, so she decides to basically hire herself out in secret to discover other people's secrets and tell the people who hire her. And then her father decides to hire her, and things ensue, and I quite enjoyed it. I also read, this is the next one, The Keeper of the Bees by Jean Stratton Porter. Do yourselves a favor and do not buy this copy off Amazon. It has a few lovely illustrations in it, but the quotation marks are not always in the right place, and sometimes it randomly stops in the middle of a sentence and puts the rest of the sentence as the beginning of another paragraph, and all the paragraphs are double spaced, and it was a bit awkward to read, to say the least. Oh, I drew this one for random letter is the author's last name. I think it was P for Porter. I did actually enjoy the story itself, just not this edition. So I will not be linking this edition down in the description. We do have a veteran from World War I. The government keeps sending him to places to try to get him to heal up from this wound. And it's been a year, and they're like, well, he's not improving. So they're going to send him to this camp where all of the people with consumption or tuberculosis are being sent, even though he doesn't have tuberculosis. And he's like, I'm not going to go die in camp feeling even worse than I already feel. So he just walks off and he hitchhikes for a little bit. And then he ends up at this property in California that's on the coast, and he gets there and the owner basically has a heart attack or something like that and needs to go to the hospital and have a surgery and recover for a while. And Jamie, our main character, he ends up taking care of these bees. He makes friends, other things happen. I have mixed feelings about this book because on the one hand, we have this young person who he can't tell if this person is a boy or a girl, and it's made to think, oh, well, if you can't tell, it's not that big of a deal. You do eventually find out, and it makes sense at the end, but it just kind of put me off. And this was written, I think, in the 1920s, so it's not like it's checking a box for modern readers. That took me out. But it does have like the most mentions of God and how he's creator and how isn't he amazing, because all these little different things about the bees have to work together in order for bees to survive. And yeah, still have mixed feelings about this one. And then I read another ebook. I read the first volume in Past Forward by Shatona Havig. This was originally a serial novel that came out. So she's compiled all of them into 6 volumes. I've read the first one. I thought it left off on a bit of where she chose to end volume 1 was a little bit of a cliffhanger. So I'm definitely looking forward to getting to volume 2, which I can do now because I've finished another book. But we have Willow, who has grown up very isolated, and she ends up walking into town to the police station because her mother died in her sleep and she doesn't know exactly what she's supposed to do. And so the police come out, and it's a very small town. They help her out. One of the police officers ends up becoming her friend against his will, but he just feels bad for her because she has nobody else and doesn't really know how to interact with the modern world. She grew up, they had electricity, but they didn't use it very much. So she grew up sewing her own clothes. She even hand paint fabric to then turn into clothes, canning, growing a lot of their own food, and all these just amazing things. And it was very fascinating to read about the different skills that Willow has. Makes me want to learn some new handicrafts. I have one more. Technically, I finished this on the 1st of May, but I got to the last 12 to 20 pages and fell asleep. And so I read the last little bit on the first day of May. So I'm counting it for April, and it was on my April TBR. Oh, there it is. Oh, I drew this for a picker wheel. I think I would not have picked this up as soon as I got it from my library's book sale room, and I would not have picked it up as soon as I did if I hadn't drawn it. And this was a lovely book. It's 1903, Iowa. We have a woman who is working in a feather duster factory because her dad had an accident and his leg is not healing, and he's a farmer, and they need money to pay the medical bills. So the rest of her sisters are at home trying to take care of the farm, and mom's trying to take care of dad. So she goes off to the city to work in the feather duster factory. And then she ends up also working at this manor house, which the owner, Otis, he wants to sell it. It's the family home, but he got sent off because he has this condition where all of his hair fell out and his eyebrows and his eyelashes. He has no hair. And his father kept pushing these quack cures on him that didn't work out and ended up scarring him and making everything worse. And so his father sent him away. Well, his father and his brother have died, and so he comes back to the family home trying to decide what to do with it. He wants to sell it, but it has to be cleaned out first. And so he hires Sadie to help with that. And so we definitely have Beauty and the Beast vibes, and I quite enjoyed it. So I ended up reading technically 9 books in April, but I counted the one I finished the 1st of May. I only gave 2 books 5 stars, A Hobbit Wardrobe and A Great War, and Fast Forward Volume 1. The other ones were high 4 stars, but nothing quite wowed me. I think I ended up choosing Fast Forward Volume 1 as my favorite book just because I'm so eager to get to book 2 that has to be an indicator that I liked book 1. I am now at, I only have 1, 2, oh, I didn't mark that one off. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I only have 11 books left on my 26 read in 2026 list. And I'm actually reading one of them. I did not end up reading the Indie Book Club pick for April because it was just so busy with the end of the school year. I do plan on reading the one in May. And my book bingo, I have crossed off the 10 Kindle books. And I just need to finish 5 series. I haven't finished any series yet this month. I will because I'm reading the last book in a series right now. And my 26 and 2026 list and 10 library books. I've only done 5 so far. Well, one of them I'm reading is also a library book, so that won't count. And I did finish my April TBR. Technically, I finished it on the 1st day of May. But yeah, let me know if you had a good book that you read in April. My pile doesn't look very big, but like I said, I did a lot of reading on my Kindle this month. So, yes. Have you read any of these? If so, we can chat about them in the comment section. Or if you have a book to recommend, let me know. And until next time, happy reading.